Training in historical airplanes, first off, it's a lot of fun. It was the first modern primary trainer that the new cadets would fly for the US Army Air Corps.
AOPA keeps flying safe, accessible, and fun by protecting your freedom to fly. We are the most trusted one-stop resource for all things related to general aviation. Become an AOPA pilot today.
It's an all-wooden airframe. The wings are even wood covered, only the fuselage is fabric with steel tubing. So sitting outside, as cheap airplanes tend to do, it didn't do them very well for longevity. And basically by the 1960s, the whole country was littered with decrepit and rotted away PT-19s. And only in the 70s, people started to restore those. And as of this year, they are about less than 100, so 98 are flyable worldwide. It was their first monowing trainer that finally realized, why are we still training our cadets into the primary program in biplane? And it was an extremely modern airplane for the time. The wing, for example, was extensively wind tunnel tested, and it does have very benign stall and spin characteristics. It also has flaps which are split flaps down here, so you don't see them from the wing top side. That was new. It has a higher landing speed, higher wing loading. So in other words, it came much closer in its flying characteristics to the frontline airplanes that the pilots would later on graduate into. Now, to compare this with the T6 you would fly later is interesting, because at first sight these two airplanes really have not much in common. And I mean, I have a number of hours in T6s. I can only say this: that was the last step before a big fighter, and therefore the landing characteristics are very demanding. They wanted that, so that the only step up then was basically the horsepower increase from the usual 600, 650 to later on 1500 horsepower roughly in a Mustang, or even more if it was a Corsair. Most of these trainers didn't even have an electrical system. So when you come to your store point, the stick starts shaking, which is what every airliner today emulates with their electronic stick shaker. Old airplanes do things like that. And of course, they are all theory airplanes, so you don't get away doing landings where you're not lined up properly. This is working very well on a pilot's skill for a straight touchdown. Learning to fly theory airplanes, and I extend that even to modern ones, is a very good thing to do if you want to further your basic stick and rudder skills. Well, the landing gear, being a primary trainer, it had to be two things: sturdy and forgiving. The forgiving aspect comes from a very, very wide stance, and it comes, that's, just the width. So if students touch down crooked, and there's an old factory 8mm film that they showed to the cadets, you see a guy literally, the factory test pilot of course, literally landing crooked on grass. It was grass, it wasn't concrete, but so she just slid around and did a gentle ground loop, and that was it. The other reason why the gear is forgiving, you have gear travel from the normal sitting ground position. Between that and when she is hanging actually in the air with the gear extended, it's like this much. So that makes it easy for practically anybody to do a really nice soft touchdown, which was a requirement because back then there was a war on. They had to train as many people in the shortest possible time, and so 10 hours was, if you hadn't soloed in 10 hours, you washed out. The average was 7.5 hours. I mean, this is unheard of today. And that means some people did it in even less than 10 hours. So one of the requirements indeed was that the airplanes would be sturdy, they'd be easy to fly. And I mentioned already the rod control system, which makes for really light, pleasant controls, and of course it has more longevity built in than wires which stretch, and pulleys that can also wear out and so on. So it is really surprising me still to this day that an airplane that was basically the lowest end, the starting point in the military hierarchy, that this airplane has so many great engineering items installed, like for example, the gust lock. It locks the stick, it locks the rudder pedals, all into place, and elevator, rudder, everything. The wheel, the tail wheel is locked too, just with one lever. So it's not like a Cessna or like any of the usual airplanes where you need to put straps around because it doesn't lock everything. And I mentioned the push-pull rods. Even the throttle on this airplane is all push-pull rods and cranks. There's only, as far as I'm concerned, there are 2 wires in that airplane. One is for the carburetor heat and the other one for the trim. It's a chain and wire setup. Why did I buy a PT-19? I could give you the answer that probably lots of people think about when they smile at a PT-19. The real article, they all had a Cox control line model when they were kids. And I was one of them. So I always had a love affair with those. But that's the first reason. The other reason, what I wanted to do with this airplane, it was an extremely good candidate. It was less expensive than a Stearman. It gets much better fuel economy. And it's a little bit faster, so you can actually fly to shows and fly-ins that are farther away. So with this airplane, it has long legs. You burn only, if you hold back, you only burn 9.5 gallons and you have 45 gallons on board, so that's not bad. So it worked on all these characteristics. It worked well. But as I said, I was already predisposed because of childhood memories, and I just always liked those things. Well, Bay Aviation is here in Middlesex County, so we have a very nice website, which is www.bayaviationonline.com. Or give us a call at 804-436-2977. And yeah, we have various ways how you can fly in this airplane, either just a regular ride here in our beautiful Western Chesapeake Bay side landscape, or you can do a basic training flight, just we talk a little about it and you get the controls when we fly around, or you can get a full checkout in this airplane, especially interesting to people that bought one or have access to one. I just have one of those guys coming next week. So yeah, it's a great airplane and a very beautiful landscape to fly here.